Good evening. It is my privilege and my honor to introduce and to welcome you to our discussion tonight at Creator-Inspired Kingdom Solutions. My name Jan Oosthuizen, and we are talking about Kingdom Solutions. And here is my guest tonight, a very privilege and a great honor to have these great leaders in our country. Graham Power, who has been for many years from the 2000s, Graham, the global voice of prayer, ethical, unashamedly ethical, and I think almost every Kingdom Drive somewhere in South Africa, I always hear your name. So Graham, so a great honor to have you with us. Welcome.
Thank you, Annie. A joy to be with you.
And then we have his son, Gary, Gary Power, and he is particularly in charge at the moment for Heal Our Land, but obviously also with Graham being part of Unashamedly Ethical, and a great work that you're doing, Gary.
Good evening. Thank you very much. Great to be here.
And then we have our own Henny Bester, who has been a big role player at one time in South African politics. In the last couple of years, been involved in research particularly regarding economic systems. Henny, welcome.
Thanks, Jan. Pleasure to be here.
Guys, we are facing troublesome times. And just recently, Graham, you were on the media as well, where you said what is happening in KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng is just, we spoke about this in many meetings. We had prayer meetings, but we never thought that it's really happening. And the devastation, the effects of that devastation is just so enormous. But then the other part of it is that we are also seeing the true sons of God that he speaks about in Romans 8 is arising, is coming out of the shadows. And the earth is lamenting and waiting for the revealing of the sons of God. So with that introduction, I first want to have you, Henny, give us some feedback on just what has been happening in the last couple of weeks and how God truly is there. He's not caught out. He's in the middle of this, but he's also part of the healing solution.
Yes, Jan, I'll be very brief, and thank you for the opportunity. It's a real privilege to be here with Graham and Gary. We went 2 weeks ago, just more than 2 weeks ago, to KwaZulu-Natal to set up a hub in Mooi River. And on the way there, we became aware of the disturbances. The N3 were closed, and we had a real sense we had to go ahead. And then we, on that particular Wednesday, we went to Durban and just realized the absolute shortage of food. And we realized we could quickly activate Creator Inspired to help to assist that. And the next morning, literally the Thursday morning, I happened to be on a call, which I can only say was God inspired, with Graham and Michael Louis and Patrick. And Graham said, you know what, I've been challenged to start this as a kingdom response. And let's all do our bit, each find our lane. And that's how Heal Our Land, I think, just arose overnight. And I think what amazed me about that was that every institution that was required to fulfill a role, Graham and Gary they had the staff of Unashamedly Ethical. They could suddenly put a lot of resources to this. You had the Domino Foundation. We already had a network and experience in distribution. We could help with the provision of food. And so just as each one stood up and took his or her place, something happened. And I think that to me has been the miracle of the past few weeks. Just perhaps one thing more, it's been great that so much of this, in fact, all of it is built on relationships of trust that have been established sometimes many years ago. Graham and I first met more than 20 years ago when he was starting out with this prayer movement. So I think, when God is the best project manager, I think that's all I can say. Thanks.
Thank you, Henny. And it is really heartwarming to say, that I've been on there. And if we want to invite those listening to go on to healourland.co.za, and we're also going to provide that link later. But to just see all the little logos of all these different agencies and ministries coming together and pulled together. Graham, this is moving from prayer to action.
Yeah, Jan, I've been so amazed. There's been all of that devastation and that hurt and all of what we experienced just over 2 weeks ago. It was interesting on the Tuesday morning. The Monday was when everything, all hell broke loose in KZN and to a lesser degree in Gauteng. Tuesday morning, a doctor friend of mine, Eleanor, phoned me and she said to me, "So Graham, what are we going to do about this?" And I must say, in the next few hours, we ended up speaking with a number of leaders across the country. And we immediately said, okay, we're going to get a prayer action going. What initially was going to be for 7 days. The next day I had Michael Louis and Henny on the line, and we started talking food. And within 24 hours, there was all these networks put together, a fund formed, which would help to provide funding for what you guys do so well, Henny. I want to say to you that Creator Inspired has been an absolute answer in a time like this. And just the way God had prompted you guys over the last year to start thinking about this, and all of a sudden, here was an unforeseen crisis. And on the other hand, we had Domino Foundation, which I'd also just come into contact with, and it sounded as if they had things quite well oiled because of COVID. And yeah, all of a sudden, here was this bigger need. And just to put those different people together and see how quickly Henny and the Domino guys started to link up and so forth. And then Gary, really, who has been full-time with Unashamedly Ethical, was released and said, okay, Gary, you need to, facilitate, coordinate. And Gary's way better than me when it comes to networking. And he immediately got hold of all kinds of peoples and so forth. So a lot has happened in the last 2 weeks. And I'm just so proud to be a South African, to see how people stand together when the chips are down.
I'm reminded of the scripture in Hebrews that says that everything at some point will be shaken, so that and only that what cannot be shaken will remain, and that is the kingdom of God. Gary, if I can come to you here, you've been on ground level, you've been busy with the ground forces, and it is just astounding to see all the people from all walks of life, all races, multicultural, coming from all different movements and church movements, and suddenly all these walls of division is falling to the wayside, and we are taking Jesus to the crisis.
Absolutely, and thanks. It's just been, just to reiterate, we've had so many people that have just taken hands, and a couple of companies that are, I would say, circular companies. I'll just say, we've been doing this logistics for years. How you guys pulled this together in 24 hours is just amazing, and it's absolutely a God thing. There was God's hand on this, and just bringing the right people together just to make this happen in the short time is almost a miracle. Just how he brought it. There were no plans, just everybody came together, put up their hands and said, use us, let's work together. So I think unity, just the unity has been absolutely amazing. And I think it's sometimes lacking, even with Christian NGOs and churches, there's been a lack of unity, and we've just seen how everybody's come together and had the same vision and said, we're standing up and we're standing together to make a difference. So it's been an absolute humbling experience just to meet and to work together and see how everybody from logistics to distribution to the end users and the beneficiaries have just come together.
The magic here is, well, magic is the wrong word. The power of God's Spirit is, first of all, the Christ value system, which is obviously built on a spiritual trust and respect and honoring and giving and sharing and giving of yourselves and dying to self. These implicit, inherent Christ values. And if I can come to you here, it's almost as God has been preparing and maturing his bride in secret, because there's been, as Gary says, many negativity and people are pointing finger to the church. But it's as if God has been prepared leaders who have call it the weightiness to carry this kind of crisis and now to come with solutions.
I think, Jan, that's right. I think all of us have been forced in the past few weeks to move gears in both obedience and faith and timeliness. And I think there are two words that continually come up for me. One is urgency, and the other is acceleration. I think Graham and Gary and myself had the privilege 2 nights ago to be on the call with people who, have big experience in safety, and God has stirred their hearts as well. So what you suddenly find is there's clearly a very important reason why the organs of God's body have to come together now to almost create it's not a safety net foundation, a new type of economy, which I think we're starting to rise up. It may sound ambitious, but I think that really is what's starting to take shape. And that's why I strongly support Graham's really conversations and thoughts that, this is not something which is a KwaZulu-Natal thing. This is something which is rising up. And I think we need to follow God's lead in what need to come out of this now. Thanks, Jan.
And thank you, Ian. You're leading to my final question for tonight's discussion, which will lead to more discussions, hopefully, after that. But Graham, I think this is something that has been, I know, in your heart, and you've been always, as far as I could see, been pushing the prayer agenda, the discipleship agenda, and particularly also the evangelism agenda, getting people saved. And I think the next step is that relief is important, but the next step is to become a relational network that can unlock a new kingdom economy.
Jan, I think about 3 years ago, where in the Western Cape, we had the worst drought in over 100 years. And my scripture that I carry on my arm every day is 2 Chronicles 7:14. But 2 Chronicles 7:13 says, when I shut up the heavens so there's no rain, or I command locusts to devour the land, or send a plague amongst my people. Now, when we think about COVID, which is amongst us, around us, this third wave, it's been hectic, then that must be the closest thing to a plague. And then, of course, the if comes. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray, seek my face, turn from their wicked ways, then the promise that God gives you and I, then I'll hear from heaven, forgive your sin and heal your land. And I believe, like we've seen with the drought, where today our dams in the Western Cape are all overflowing. We've had very good rains. And ons hoop daai reën kom ook in die Karoo vir julle. So it is something that I have seen, and I will never underestimate the power of prayer. So we know that what we need in the country is a revival. And, we've not seen that in over 150 years in our country. And when we look at the many challenges, when you've got 60% people under the age of 25 unemployed, that is a ticking time bomb, as they would say, or a wonderful opportunity. And I think that we, as leaders in our country, need to make a difference. And so I believe that right now, KZN is the present hotspot, but Heal Our Land is probably more about a medium to longer term issue of saying, what are we as Christians going to do in order to make that difference, to bring hope and to make sure that people have a job. It's like we've often heard that story about in Africa, they say, don't feed me, teach me to fish. But at the end of the day, you can give me a fishing rod and a reel and all the training you want to. But if the pond does not have fish in it, then you can teach me to fish as much as you like, but we need the pond. And we need the opportunity in this country for people that want to work to be able to get skills and to be able to accept that training and to be able to find that job. So we have a big challenge ahead of us, but I'm excited and I believe that God has a special plan for South Africa. And, I may be white, but I'm an African and I'm proud to be an African. And I believe we are going to make Africa a light to the world. And South Africa plays a key role.
Thank you so much for that, Graham. And you know, I had to, when I planned tonight, and you know, I'm going full white males on camera. Is in many people can say, no, what are these guys doing, and what is the conspiracy about? But I think what I'm hearing is a true servant heart. That we're not here to rule, to govern, and to, you know, be predictive in terms of the answers. We just want to serve, and as kingdom believers, take hands, so that together we need everyone's help and ideas to come together. And Gary, can come to you, then he, and then we're going to close tonight's discussion. Gary, how do you see, particularly at the moment, just how tribes and people, and you know, in the midst of conflict, how people are coming together from all parts?
Yes, I think if I can share, I just think heal our land as like a veld fire. Sometimes you need things to burn to refresh, and I've just, that thought's coming up to me, and how we need this. We need to be forced to change, and to make a change, we need a big event, which has happened because we didn't want to listen. And it's just been amazing to hear the testimonies of how people are now standing together, and interracial people are saying we need to stand together as Christian brothers. Let's come together in unity. And so we're trusting for forgiveness. And I think this feeding part's been the first part, but what about after that? Where's the reconciliation going to be from going forward, and how are we going to deal with this? And this has just been an eye opener to all of us, that we need to pray and move forward into action now, and stand together as brothers and sisters.
Thank you. We had this discussion last night when we had Dr. Arno and Patrick Kuvena, and also Dr. Jack Moore, and they were talking about the local economies, the unlocking of local hubs, local communities taking hands. And yeah, I want to ask you this question. We spoke earlier today about, you said we need a new economic contract. Complete my sentence. That was a thought you had this morning. And then we're going to do a quick 30 seconds each one, just to give a final statement.
Yeah, Jan, very quickly, you know, my strong thing is in 94, we had a political liberation in South Africa, but we haven't had an economic liberation. And what we really need, most of our country is enslaved to debt or to unemployment. And the only way that we're going to really build that is if at local level, communities come together, as indeed they've come together over the past few weeks in KwaZulu-Natal. And I think that is where ordinary people will stand up and say, you know what, we have found an accommodation, we're going to build our communities. And that's what I find extremely hopeful from this time. And like Graham, extremely proud to be a South African right now. Thanks, Jan.
And you also say that it's almost like we're going to see thousands of contracts that are going to happen in relationship. And if any market, Graham, you guys are also great business people, and you know that with any business, there's relationship, and relationship to do business has to be done in integrity, and your word has to be true, and your ways and so forth. Everything has to be in order so that you can attract business. Graham, few words, last seconds of words and thoughts as you see the future. Gary and Henny, and then we conclude.
Yeah. First of all, I want to say a huge thank you to you guys, Creator Inspired. It's been a privilege to work with you. It's been wonderful to see, as we've spoken to small and larger donors, people that have donated 100 Rand, 1,000 Rand, 1,000,000 Rand, how when they could understand that this is taking the material, the product from the farmer to the end user, and how everybody is pulling together, there has been a tremendous amount of excitement for that. So I want to say thank you guys for that. I look forward that this relationship will be a long-term relationship, and I believe that people out there are realizing that each of us, some people can pray, others can provide finances, others can do what you're doing on the ground about getting the products, etc. And I believe if each and every one of us is but a single piece of a 1,000-piece puzzle, and we each have our little role to play. And so whatever it is that your viewers are considering tonight, whether that be prayer, and don't be shy to organize the finances for this Heal Our Land and it will get to Henny, it will get to Creator Inspired, it will get to the ground. And from food, we know the next thing is going to be about the mental health of people, psychologists and others, and then to see how we can help people, those small business that have been going for 10 years, a little spaza shop that has been burned down, raided, and how can we now support them and help them to get up and going.
Gary?
I just want to, I think you said it earlier, just about the servant heart and just being available and to support each other. And as I said, the people that have just put up their hands to work together, none of us could have done this on our own, even the organizations involved. Each person came into that puzzle, as my dad was explaining, and there are more people to be added to that puzzle. And we just pray that the right people come together as we go forward in this. And it's been amazing to work with every person and to just be part of this. So let's just put up our hands and be available to the Lord to be used as a vessel. So it's been wonderful. Thank you to Henny and the Creator Inspired team and Martinez and everybody that's been involved and just come together to make this possible.
Henny?
Yeah, and I think from my side also, I honor Graham and Gary with the professionalism and integrity with which they go about this. It's a pleasure working with them. And then I think what I've also learned in the past few weeks is we each one have a role. And I think we must each one now keep our positions, not depart our posts. Almost in a military sense of the word, we've got to stick to our posts and we've got to hold that ground with perseverance. I think we will get some opposition and there'll be some discouragement as we go forward, but let's keep our posts because then we'll prevail and God will prevail and he'll get the glory. Thanks, Jan.
Thank you, Henny. And so if you're listening, and there's so many aspects that you can get involved. Maybe you're a farmer and you can give us produce, so important and vital to this whole success of the project, but also future. It's not just a relief, but to think future, to think smallholder farming and mentorship and training. There's the logistical side. We need hands on deck. There's the distribution side. And then, as Graham said, the funding side. So we're going to end tonight's discussion. We're going to give you the links to the websites, Creator Inspired website, and also Heal the Land website, where you can get all the info. And I thank you, gentlemen, for being on tonight and taking the time. And again, thank you for serving. When a church and a person pray, he comes out as a servant. May God bless you. We greet you. God bless you.